So usually my horses do anywhere between 15 and 18 shows. Normally at most 1 or 2 flights a year, just so we don't make it too much of a hassle for them really. And when you notice he's perhaps going through a bit of a dip or just needs some time off, you simply scale things back a little bit, maybe drop down to smaller classes for a while to get a bit more enthusiasm back into it. Usually, if I'm heading to a competition and let's say there's a class on Thursday and I've got a 2-hour lorry drive, then on Monday I'll still do a few jumps just to check, make sure everything's fine and all in order, then head off to the tournament 2 days later as originally planned. This is Coolio. I've had him now for about 1.5 years, and to be honest, he's been my #1 choice ever since, really my go-to horse in every situation. The mental aspect with horses and riders is, I think, incredibly important, and in the end I think that really shows up in the course. What's important is that they get out a lot every day. His last competition was at the World Cup final. It's his first outdoor competition, and I'll be doing 2 jump sessions with him this week since he hasn't jumped at all for a few weeks now. So with a bit of luck and careful preparation, he'll be in the right shape and form for Madrid next week, all being well.
It's quiet here.
Yes, at competitions I can't really choose. Then sometimes on the warm-up arena I've got 20, 30, 40 or even more horses demanding attention, riding around or getting in the way. I don't need that at home, of course. It's just the preparation you've got to have in place beforehand so you're properly able to do in training whatever you need to do in the moment. Yeah, first and foremost, what really matters most to me is practicing exactly what I'll actually need out there at the tournament, the things I actually need on the course. And that's mainly between the jumps, because most mistakes can be avoided when the horses are better balanced and moving in rhythm together. And those are just things I try to work on and perfect at home whenever I can. I mean, if I ride for about 45 minutes, you really have to take 2 or 3 proper breaks and let the reins go properly loose for a little while, so the horses can truly breathe and know, right, I don't have to work right now, I can just rest. Having that difference, especially at tournaments, when things get delayed and something takes longer. Not having to sit there for 3/4 of an hour on high alert, but actually getting proper moments of rest where the horses can fully wind down, recover and regroup mentally. So it's basically, like with horses, a long-term commitment. It's not as if starting strength training a week before will suddenly make a difference for me. It wouldn't help me in the competition either. I think, given my riding style, it's not particularly demanding in terms of strength, but certainly I guess it would be disrespectful towards the horse if I myself weren't physically in decent shape. In the end though, I always say the horse is the athlete, not me as the rider. But then again, I mean, it's a lot of movement throughout the day. I'm constantly cycling up and down here 10 times a day. We're lucky enough to have a small swimming pool at home. I've got 4 kids with my wife, so there's naturally a lot of physical activity going on all the time, every single day, without a doubt. But it's not as if I make a point of going to the gym or doing other things like that on top of it, you know, really. Back in the day, I had to muck out the boxes myself, and the jumping material when we rebuilt the course was a lot heavier. Everything's become a bit easier. Riding was definitely more demanding for me back then than it is nowadays, because I think I already know how to press the right buttons here and there without pushing myself too far into that stressful zone where I just hit my limit. And when my mood's not so great and if I then look left and right, seeing that first foal of Calander running around or even others, well, that's already such a lovely and heartwarming sight to take in. And then it's also important, a horse that I had in sport for 10 years, knowing that it's still doing well afterwards and even enjoying motherhood, that surely has a big impact on one's mental well-being. As you get older, you tend to take things just a little bit more easily than you do when you're young. But I just don't like ending up in a stressful situation. That's why I usually try to avoid it as much as possible. In the course, you can't always avoid it, but at least during preparation. So some people need that. They've really got to push themselves and they need a certain level of adrenaline rush. Others, on the other hand, in a completely different way. But everyone's got to figure that out for themselves in the end, I think. I'm someone who actually quite likes to be properly well organised, so I'm rarely ever late. I usually end up finishing my run-up too early because I really struggle to cope with being short on time, which in turn means I can't get into the course feeling relaxed enough. But of course, especially when you've got horses that people don't think you can handle and they say, what's he going to do with that one or whatever. And when successes come along, you can really surprise the doubters with something positive. So by now, it has now simply become routine. I pack my suitcase, chuck it into the lorry or onto the plane, make my way to the tournament. There I simply have a different outfit and just focus on doing exactly what I need to do every single time to get the result in the end that I've been practicing at home all along. And when you're actually on the road for nearly 40 weeks every single year, you really do build up quite a bit of routine doing it.
And when you have such a routine, you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it over again. Of course, you occasionally forget little things. Forget the bridle, forget the boots, or maybe something special he was actually supposed to take along, something that was even mentioned. But it got completely lost in all the hustle and bustle. Forgot the bit, though forgetting the bit isn't really my problem. Right, so here's the hook where Marcus takes his competition bit, the one he wants me to bring. Like, this is always my working bridle, competition bridle, lunging bridle, everything. Brown, so he doesn't muddle them up for me. For his bridles, because he likes to rearrange them. On this side are all my nose bands, each one clearly labelled with names as well. So I always know exactly where each piece belongs without any confusion. Everything usually hangs here neatly stored and clean, straight from the competition once it's been cleaned. Most of the time, if there are lots of bridles, I go ahead and sack them, as I already have plenty of other things I always keep in there, like cleaning head collars. Martingale, the ones only used for training and so on. So again, this is pretty much the full kit here. With boots, towels, everything's already packed up so I don't have to move much around later. And essentially, always 2 sets, so that I always have plenty of spares and don't keep using the same items over and over again, because after a while, they'll inevitably get worn out and will need replacing eventually. No, but yes, all sorts. Really colourful, everything you can think of. Cuddly toys, hay nets, even the horse has its comfort toy. Like Scolius here, with his ear sewn back on. Every horse has got its very own special little things. So some stuffed animals are really chosen after the horse's character. And then after a while you think, actually that fits quite well. Like Priam, for instance. He's got his dragon. He's shy, but deep down, he really wants to be seen. But then again, he loves his dragon. Take Sandonal, for instance. The owner came over and said, he's like a giraffe, so we brought a giraffe.
What I think a lot of people underestimate is when you're heading off to a competition, you often assume you've got to force the horse onto the lorry or into the trailer. I've had examples like Plot Blue back then, who was retired here with us. He went into his stable, saw the open lorry, just turned and walked straight on. Plenty of horses do the same. They really do. As soon as they see the lorry, they get excited about going to a competition and seeing new things. And then when they know they've had successes and they're right up there in the rankings, you can immediately see that they enjoy it every bit as much as we possibly do.
They're happy to get in. I've never had one who wasn't keen to jump in. It's not practiced at all. You're quite well used to most doing it though. Right now, our young horses, they know plenty of national shows. That means they're well used to spending long hours standing on the lorry, just standing there. If they've got 2 tests scheduled a day at a competition, they might end up standing around for several hours. That's obvious, they're fed water and drinks, but they're used to it. Generally, because we spend so much time with them, they're quite manageable and easy to handle. No trouble at all, really. Horses love mesh. Lots of horses don't just like going to the water. To really get them drinking while they're on tour for a long time, so that they always have well hydrated, just take a handful of mesh and add a good amount of water to that mesh. You can also give it straight away. There's never been any problem at all. Honestly, it really won't swell the mesh up too much. And the great thing is, they all absolutely love it and go straight for it straight away. I've never had one yet that didn't want it. Got any more victims? Oh, we've still got victims here. Come on. Of course, there are cases, like mine, for example, Priam. Oh no, I'll just pop one in quickly, but honestly, I don't really want to drink it, but usually they end up drinking properly then. Or you could always just use the mesh water to do the mesh prep a bit earlier, before you actually set off, for example. Put the water in, let it steep a bit longer, then give it later. They'll still have a bit more to nibble on. There are horses that know this all too well. They just pull the bucket away and go straight for the mesh. See what I mean? He's just pulling it right away now. And that's the trick with the mesh weasel. Stargold's really bad inside there. He shoves his whole head in. But like I said, that still works best. So they really do drink it then, yeah? Is that good? Is anything else? Yeah, well, that's the trick with the mesh water. No, you stay in there now, love. My plan, written down just because I sometimes forget where I've been or need to go. We've got one in the kitchen. Next month's not filled in. I haven't got round to it. At home, I've got the same one as well. And yeah, just to help me keep a bit of track myself, where do I need to go again? Where have I been? So I can get a bit of a sense of direction and plan ahead properly. Now that I think about it, I've also got to plan health papers. Just need a bit of an overview, really. And then, if my colleagues have questions too, they can just check it themselves, so they've got a clear idea of what's coming up in the near future. Tires squeal loud. Brakes are making a squeak.
It's a good reality check. If you're aiming for the championship and you look at your results, you soon get an idea whether you're being realistic or not. If there are no results to show, then you can probably just forget about it altogether. But of course, plenty of factors come into play there. Especially when you're thinking about the championship, consistency is probably one of the most important things. To not have such wild fluctuations, but actually deliver consistently good results. And then there are certainly phases where you have that last bit of luck, where perhaps one of your opponents is out of the running and you have what is known as a good run, which of course makes it easier to win the championship. But even so, you can generally tell from the results of the previous year or the months before just where you actually stand in the overall rankings. And I'm just saying, if you're consistently not 0 or 4 with 1m40, you don't necessarily need to ride 145. And I think that kind of carries through upwards, really.